I'm delighted to welcome you all to what I'm sure is going to be a stimulating afternoon and an equally stimulating champagne reception hosted by Ashurst and our co-hosts Grant Thornton later on today. The 16th of May 2014, I believe, is by all accounts a watershed in the history of modern India. It signified a change in direction, a change for a better future. As the new Prime Minister of India during the election campaign said that he felt the past 10 years were a lost decade for India. We may agree with that, we may agree in part, but I think all of us in this room who are friends of India, who work with India, who have been thinking about working and doing business in India, will agree that at least the last 3 or 4 years were disappointing. A time where India was going through a lot of difficult times, but the direction wasn't quite there. The 16th of May, when the Indian electorate gave a resounding vote of confidence to Narendra Modi, in my view, it was a vote for business, for getting India back on track and back to business. And as Richard has said in his welcome note, which is in your pack, this is probably, well, definitely for me, the most optimistic time that I've witnessed over the last 20 years that I've been advising and engaged in India. But with optimism comes a sense of anxiety. Will India really be able to achieve its potential? Today is not about listening to me. I'm just here to welcome you all, to thank our hosts Ashurst and our co-sponsors Grant Thornton, and we have a fantastic lineup of speakers for this afternoon, all of whom are eminent in their own fields. We also have Andy Marino, the official biographer of Narendra Modi, who will be in conversation with Seema Malhotra, Member of Parliament, a little later on today, and we look forward to his insights into the man of the moment.
Welcome to Ashurst. Just a few words of advice, which I think any lawyer should be giving you in terms of when it comes to deal with India. And my advice to you is you have to embrace the country. You have to fall in love with the people, the diversity of their culture, their religion, their state, their background. You must also have the 3 Ps: patience, perseverance, and persistence. And probably most important of all, you have to establish a trusted relationship with your stakeholders and your partners on the ground. At Ashurst, I can genuinely say that we have established such a relationship with Gopika Pant, who is the senior partner of Indian Law Partners in India and who is with us today. My personal opinion is that we can put the same trust in Narendra Modi, who has already sent a serious message to the West, Manoj, that India is open for business. And I think over the next few months and maybe a couple of years that we'll see Mr. Modi introducing transparency, probity and accountability.
My name is Anuj Chande. I'm a partner at Grant Thornton and the founder partner of the South Asia Group, which I formed in 1991. At that time, as many of you will know, India was at the dawn of a new era. That was the start of economic liberalization in India. 23 years later, we are at another dawn of the new era. My personal opinion is I'm cautiously optimistic, very much like Manoj. I've been through the ups and downs of India for the last 20 years, but I think this is the first time, as Manoj has said himself, that I'm very optimistic about the future of India, and that this dawn of the new era will actually rise, and there'll be the midday sun, which will be as hot as the sun we have today in London, very similar to Delhi.
In 2010, we had set a trade target of doubling bilateral trade in the next 5 years. Are we there? No. We would need to reach by the end of next year around 24 billion two-way trade. We are at around 15. This is dollars, by the way. And so we have some distance to go. But in terms of investments, the last few years have seen very substantial growth. The UK is the third largest investor in India. Cumulative equity investments around $20 billion. Indians are now the fifth largest investors in this city, and we have 700 Indian companies all around this country. In fact, I don't get to see the majority of the Indian companies, though I do make the effort. What do I find in these months that I've been here? One, the expectation is India can grow a lot faster. It must grow a lot faster. We expect something to be done to restore high growth. Two, every visitor to India reminds you that infrastructure development is a high priority. For business people, that's not only just a priority to do business, that's seen as an opportunity because British firms have strengths in the infrastructure area. The third, they want liberalization of foreign direct investment norms. They want opening up of new areas. They want clarification of regulations, ease of doing business, particularly for direct investors. Fourth, they want administrative and regulatory reforms. They'd like to see a lot less of what is described as red tape and what you see the regulatory uncertainties which have begun to creep up, at least in the minds of the investors. And the fifth, and I think this is very important, this is an area for specialists, but tax. And they see tax-related issues as something which is standing in the way of good investment possibilities, and their expectations certainly are that the government of the day will deal with them.
The areas where we expect to see the most progress and the most momentum, certainly in the short term in terms of a reform agenda, is in the sort of areas of administrative reform. So basically, areas where the government can take decisions and implement policy on an executive level without having to introduce legislation and pass bills in Parliament. Conversely, just to flag three areas where we do expect to see a lot of progress in the next several months, again, all on the administrative side. One is disinvestment, that is basically part privatization of state-owned firms, essentially minority stake sales. One, of course, is investment, and we've already heard about the need to get the investment cycle revitalized. So this is things like, maybe introducing a single window clearance mechanism and removing bottlenecks. And one is FDI. His Excellency mentioned FDI for an investment. We would expect to see a liberalization of FDI policy in most sectors, with a couple of exceptions, which again we could go into the details later if there's interest.
This time we've seen a shift from communal caste coalition to a majority rule, which is really music to our ears, and very, very important for us to note on what impact this is going to have on us, our work, and the way we look at business. Total population of 1.3 billion, 830 million was the figure of registered voters. His Excellency already told us about 550 million actually went to vote. The 160 million is the figure I have for registered voters, first-time voters. Everybody didn't go and vote. That's from the Press Information Bureau. 160 million is more than the entire ballots that were cast in the last American election. It's twice the entire population of the UK. This group of 18 to 23 years old, you're all looking too young to me, but if you had children in that age group, you'd know what that means, to have a population between 18 and to 23. This is a population which has aspirations, which is looking towards empowerment. And that's the only area of caution I really see on how we can empower this youth. Because they have energy, they have fire in the belly, they are coming from urban and rural sectors of our society. We have to see what we can do. 30,000. This figure comes up in different ways. It comes up on a weekly basis, monthly basis, annual basis. 30,000 is a number of jobs we have to create every day. I broke it down to a day. 30,000 is it's a tough job. It's going to happen if we open up sectors, if we give a push to manufacturing. If you had children, you know what they all want. They have mobile phones, iPads, smartphones. Today, 65% of our electronics are imported. Here's something for Indo-UK business. 35% are assembled. Very low-end electronics are actually manufactured in India. So there's a lot of scope over there. 28 billion to 220 billion is what we are looking at, 200 billion. 28 million jobs can be created just in the electronic manufacturing sector in the course of the next 8 to 10 years.